I want to talk now about this absolute absurdity of the National Trust. It's banned a volunteer from working after pointing out a raft of spelling mistakes. Now, he did send a slightly not great email as well, to be brutally honest, where he said still no reply, acknowledgement, let alone thanks from what he called the Irish dame, O-I-R-I-S-H, which is not very nice, on over 400 hours spent on her crappy website, although he put an extra H in the word website. But he pointed out many misspellings and factual errors. Philip Kiszely, a senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, he was told, this man, Andy Jones, that his comments were not in line with our organisational values. Philip, perhaps the follow-up email wasn't great, but actually, if someone points out errors, as sometimes they do on this programme, and say, actually, Peter, you got that wrong, that's actually quite helpful.
It is helpful, especially if there are thousands and thousands of errors and the person has spent 400 hours of their time unpaid to collate them and then point them out. I mean, it's always this thing, isn't it? When people start talking about values and alignment with their values, you just think about ideology, thought control, and punishment. Those are the words that come to my mind. And, you know, and if you digress, you then automatically become, you know, an unperson.
Sorry, Philip. Those views are not in line with our organisational values.
I know, and you're gonna cut me off straight away.
It is kind of it's quite sinister when people say that, not in line with our organisational values. There's always people who talk about things like inclusivity. This is not in the spirit of inclusivity. Therefore, we're going to exclude that person with those opinions.
Yes, and never speak to them again and absolutely punish them. Bearing in mind that this fella has stage 2 cancer as well. So there is a sense that all of this stuff is done in the most human terms possible. You know, they're going to punish him in the kindest way possible. They talk as well about relationship breakdown. So it's so inhuman, it's so awful. It's this kind of management speak of, you know, a pensioner who's ill, who's doing so much and is just so frustrated with this organisation that is totally captured and really needs de-radicalising.
Just tell us a bit more about that, actually, because the National, believe it or not, more people are members of the National Trust than every political party in the UK put together. The National Trust is, you know, in the absence of a Church of England, and, you know, the NHS and the National Trust are sort of the national religion of a lot of people. There are loads of people who love nothing better than going to a stately home at the weekend, having a bit of a poke around, having a nice scone and a cup of tea, and seeing how people lived previously. There are loads of National Trust properties. It should be a beacon. It should be a really, really good thing that Britain does brilliantly with so much incredible history. But as you say, it has been captured by the wokies.
It has, and there are so many examples. There's an example as well of gardeners who had been using the wrong language and saying the wrong things, and they were just cancelled immediately. But the National Trust couldn't give a single example of their bad behaviour. Now, the National Trust are keepers of our culture. You know, it's an incredibly important organisation, and language is a vehicle for that culture. So for, you know, someone who's volunteering to say, look, you've made all of these mistakes, you know, here's what you do to rectify them. As you say, Peter, they should be thanking him, but the ideology just comes through all the time here, and you can just see them, can't you, in a meeting, in a board meeting, saying, well, you know, this person is obviously a white supremacist because he wants decent syntax, he wants decent punctuation, he wants decent spelling. That's going to alienate all of the people who speak English as a second language. That's going to alienate people with learning disabilities, all of that kind of thing. You can see all of this kind of stuff. So you can see how absolutely radicalised they are. And if we are to deal with the heritage industry, and again, if we are to deal with education and the institutions and the media, we need to strip all of these institutions of this ideology, because it is the opposite of what it purports to be. It absolutely alienates everybody. You know, it is all about ideology.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting point. And listen, I will be brutally honest, I'm known as a bit of a pedant. My father it was a teacher, and my mother was as well, and they both gave me a lot of sort of grammatical instruction and so on. And when I worked in government, I was known as one of the biggest pedants around, actually, and there was a list of things that were acceptable, not acceptable, about all this sort of management speak and stuff I tried to get out of government parlance, like stakeholder and all those kind of ludicrous words, always fighting a losing battle. But there was one particular journalist who contacted me after I pointed out that she'd made an error in a report and simply said, "You wouldn't say that to me if I wasn't a woman," and basically accusing me of sexism. And I then said this to a female press officer I was working with, who's still in government actually as a press officer, and she said, "Peter, I'm happy to go on the record, I'm happy to put a statement out. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, male, female, gay, straight, whatever, immigrant, born in this country. If you make a grammatical error, Peter will point it out. If you make a mistake, Peter will go overboard to tell you that you made it wrong. You've done something wrong." So I think we need to be a bit more relaxed about this as well. And there's so many things that are imperfect. This show, for example, Philip, is imperfect. There are 3 hours. I am going to say 1 or 2 things that are not exactly right. A second ago, I stumbled on my words there, for example. People sometimes text in, ring in and say, "Actually, the fact is this," or "You've missed this," or alternatively, someone said earlier, "Why aren't you talking about Iran?" I mean, we are, but we weren't doing it for the first half an hour, and people saying you should have done it maybe as the top story. That's okay. And people, including these senior leaders, need to be able to take some criticism. They need to be able to take, especially when someone's being constructive and saying, "Here's a website, loads of people are going to access that website and there are loads of spelling errors on it. You need to fix it."
Well, it's just embarrassing as well that a big organisation like the National Trust is riddled with errors all over the place. So this is about clarity. And clarity is really, really important, especially when you're dealing with heritage and you're conserving something. Clarity is so important. And what we need to do is strip all of, if you're pointing something out that is wrong, we need to strip everything of the implications that come with it, which just aren't there. If you're saying that someone spelt something wrong, it doesn't mean you're a white supremacist,
yeah, exactly,
or a raging misogynist.
But it comes back.
Like
it may seem like a small thing, but it actually comes back to the fact that truth is dead. We're in a post-truth situation, and you can't just be saying, "Actually, you've spelt the word definitely wrong," or you're using this jargon which is going to lose everybody, and you should be a bit clearer in what you say. It's actually saying, well, you're not just saying that simply to be helpful in some way, or even if you are just a bit of a pedant, you're saying it for other reasons. You're saying it because you're a sexist. You're saying it because you're a white supremacist. It's this victim mentality that drives me crazy.
Well, it's demoralising as well for everybody, because most people know that isn't the case. You're not pointing things out because you hate somebody. You're dealing with an error. It's as simple as that. Yeah. And I think the more we get back to actually trying to have, levels of excellence that we try to attain, that we actually work to do the best we possibly can. And there is no sinister aspect to that. It's just we are trying to be the best we can. Then that works well. It works well in society. It works well in culture. It works well in personal relationships. And it works well with the economy as well. It's all good. There's nothing wrong with it.
Exactly. Totally agree, Philip. You're the best version of yourself on all occasions, including in that interview. Philip Kiszely there, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, regular guest here on Talk. Always great to have him on.